Suddenly Mimi leaned over and kissed him. When his heart almost stopped, he lay there and stared into the night sky and said nothing. In the distance, Winnie heard the roar of approaching motorbikes, followed by a police siren. Oh, it's a bit more lubrication. What's that? Mimi looked scared. Winnie stood up and grabbed her hand and led back to his mates. Two blokes on motorcycles came roaring into the party site. They laughed as they got off their bikes and yelled out how they'd outrun the coppers. The siren sounded closer and Twister and his drunken mates gathered around Winnie and Mimi, probably looking for a good time. The police car pulled up, lights flashing, and two cops got out and said they wanted to talk to the last two riders. The gathered crowd laughed as one. "You find them!" Twister called out. The coppers realised they were heavily outnumbered and just about ready to get back in their car when someone chucked a bunger. They exploded near them. That changed things quick smart. The cops got on the blower and called for reinforcements. "There's going to be trouble now," Winnie whispered in Mimi's ear. "Let's get out of here." Petey, you have to get me out of here. I'll be in big trouble if I'm caught." Big Kev and Brian come over. "Don't forget we're next, Winnie." Winnie shook his head. "Get fucked, this one is different. Is there a way out of here?" He didn't want to get caught up and twist the shit either. Ocker piped up. "Hey, Slippery knows how we can get away." Approaching sirens got louder. "Follow me, we don't have much time." Slippery took off. Winnie mounted up and kick-started the bike and waited for Mimi to climb on. Then he gave it a handful and took off after Slippery. Mimi wasn't happy. Woody could hear the panic in her voice. He followed Slippery behind a hill and turned off his lights. The three other boys followed. 5 police cars passed him, heading in the opposite direction. Winnie didn't know if 5 cars would be enough to quell the crowd. They were all drunk and probably more than a match for 10 coppers. They were too, but more came. The boys followed Slippery down a track and back onto the road. They were off, free as birds. Winnie gave Slippery the thumbs up and roared past him for Elizabeth Bay. The boys were still hoping for a gangbang, but there was no chance. Winnie wanted the sheriff to keep her doing for himself. He just didn't know how he was going to lose the boys. Ocker rode up next to him and smiled and looked at Mimi. When he pulled over and parked, and the boys pulled up alongside him and gave him the what the fuck's going on look. Before Winnie could answer, they heard more police sirens nearby. He seized the opportunity and yelled out, "I'll see you blokes tomorrow," taking off in the cloud of blue smoke. "Good luck," Big Kev shouted as Winnie headed east. Winnie thought he'd died and gone to heaven. "Fuck, I'm in like Flynn," he thought, but he didn't have a clue to where to take her in the eastern suburbs. The police reinforcements drove past. The police reinforcements drove by, but paid no attention to them. He stopped at a light and Mimi got off and ran across the street and hailed a taxi. Before she closed the door, she mouthed, "Thank you," and that was that. Winnie just shook his head. The boys wouldn't believe him. He kicked his bike into life and struck him. It was going to be a long ride home and he didn't even get a number. The next morning was Sunday. His mum had long since stopped trying to get him to go to Mass. He heard the sound of motorbikes pulling into his drive. He was lying in bed trying to recall what had happened the night before. All he could think of was Mimi. He could still smell her perfume, but he couldn't work out exactly what had happened. He opened the back door and saw his mates lounging around the backyard. "You're a sheriff and cunt," Brian yelled. It was a good thing he smiled. "I know. Do you want to know what happened?" "Yeah," they all answered, anticipating a lewd story. "When we went for our stroll in the dunes, we sat down and she rolled me a smoke of marijuana." "The bike is in the States are into that," said Big Kev. "What was it like?" "Better than piss, mate. We just lay there smoking while I played with the titties. They were nice." "Yeah, I noticed," Brian said and grabbed his crutch. "Go on, Winnie, what happened?" I always wanted to know every dirty detail. It turns out she's some rich cunt's daughter from Rose Bay. You wouldn't believe it, but after you blokes left, I was trying to think of where I could take her, and when she jumped off, got in a taxi, said thank you, and fucked off. I still can't believe it. Bullshit, said Kev, and the boys laughed until they almost cried. Fucking oath, boys, believe me. I suppose she's telling her rich girlfriends all about it by now. The only good thing was last night was the marijuana. There could be a decent earning for us. We'd better look into that one. Brian piped up. Did you see the headlines, Winnie? He read from the Sunday paper. Right at Little Bay, bikies steal a police motorcycle. 45 police battle bikies after police chase. 65 arrests made. Police are continuing their investigations. They always say that. I guess we don't go to the Centennial for a while then, eh? I'm sick of hanging around with those meatheads anyway. If we're going to get into shit, it'd be better. If we're going to get into shit, it had better be for what we do instead of what those cunts do. Did they get Twister? I hope so, Kev said, smiling. Come on, let's go up to the shed. They walked up the back gardens and Kev asked Winnie if he was sweet on Mimi. Winnie thought he was, but said, nah, she's just another slut, and left it at that. Kev shook his head as he walked into the shed and sat down to discuss business. I got asked if anyone's got the number plates of the bikes they wanted. Winnie said, yeah, I got 3 new bikes, so they should be insured. Well, we sell one more, I reckon we're going to have to go somewhere else to do this. My old man's getting suspicious of us bringing bikes here at night. The news took a minute to digest. Brian said, why don't we open the shop? Winnie looked at him while he gave the idea some thought. Then he said, that'd be pretty easy. There are plenty of places to rent. We could do modifications, sell spare parts. I could spray and Kevy could do repairs. We could sell the hot bikes from the shop. How much do you reckon it cost? Well then, we sell this bike, there should be enough in it to cover our startup costs. I can bring my old man's tools in, that'll save us. And Slippery could do the side ride. Winnie was suddenly interested in the idea. What should we call the shop? A few ideas were aired. Brian started to write some names down, then he looked up and said, what about Snows after Snows Mountain? The boys cracked up. Yeah, Brian, it's not a bad name. Where would we set it up? What about Parramatta? It's central. When he laughed, sounds all right to me. If we have any complaints, we can refer them to Snow, because he'll never be in. And the boys laughed some more. I thought that was all right. Right then, I'll go and see a real estate agent tomorrow, said Brian. The boys talked about getting a few bikes to go in the new shop, and Winnie put a stop to that right away. Can you wait until we rent a shop? I don't want to upset the old man. Sure, Winnie, it's only the night's work. After they sold the last hot bike, they had enough rent to rent a workshop in a back alley behind the Parramatta business district. It had a small display area and a dirt floor soaked with years of oil and grease. At least it's cheap, Brian said. It'd want to be, when he said, looking around at the mess. Brian was already planning where he's going to set up his spare parts section. This could be the start of something big, Winnie. Winnie wasn't too sure. If we don't run out of money first, I've saved some money, mate. We can use that to get started. Good to know, Winnie raised an eyebrow. He had no idea Brian had saved a penny. The boys all nodded. Oh. Hey, you blokes, remember Rat Ruffsock from school? When he was thinking out loud, the boys all laughed. The boys all nodded. Well, he's into surfing and he might know how to get onto the blokes with marijuana. He still lives around here. I see him now and then driving a yellow Zephyr with a surfboard on top. I'll see what he knows. Ocker and Big Kev brought in a bike. They quickly renumbered and repainted. They changed the handlebars, added a few accessories and finished it so well that the original owner could have bought it back and not known it was his in the first place. Well, that's what you hope for. The boys knew that their work was superior and they wanted to put the word around that they were in business. Slippery sign painted. Snow's British Motorcycle Sales and Service. On a board they hung in the front window. Then the boys stood outside and admired his work. Looks like a pro shop now. Brian said proudly. How about we have a grand opening, Spiteri? How about we have a grand opening? Spiteri said he could make T-shirts with her name on the sell. It's free advertising. Brian was quick with a good idea, a natural marketing whiz. Instead of closing at 12 on Saturdays like the other shops, they decided to stay open until 3 o'clock. It gave the blokes who worked on Saturdays a chance to come in and nose around, and they made some of their best sales then. For the grand opening, most of their mates came in. Even Twister put in an appearance to have a sniff around. Sometimes he's a real good bloke, and other times a cunt. That's why we called him Twister. He filled Winnie in on what happened at Little Bay. Turned out it was a full-on riot. The police didn't give a fuck who they bashed. Twister and a few of his mates escaped, including his cousin, Caro Ken from the country. Caro Ken, who was the bloke who stole the police bike in the first place. He's a real mad prick and dumb as a post. He got his name by putting kerosene in his bike instead of petrol, and the name just stuck. When he asked Twister, "Are you blokes going to Bassett's this year?" "Of course." "Why don't you ride up with us?" "I don't think so. You're not exactly Kev's best mate." "Fuck Big Kev. Who's running this show?" Just then Kev walked in the shop. Twister turned him without batting an eyelid, tried to turn on the charb. "Kev, I was just telling Winnie what a great shop you have here." Kev looked unimpressed. Twister took the hint. "Anyway, guys, I have to go now. We're run down to Wollongong tomorrow." After they closed shop and sat around drinking beer while Brian counted the takings. That wasn't a bad idea with the T-shirts. Let's get some more. We made enough to cover our setup costs. And once we start selling the bikes, this shop is going to be a nice little earner. It won't be like this every week, mate. We better stay on the dole for a while yet. We made good money from the hot bikes, Winnie. Yeah, but how long do you reckon we'll get away with it? If we just sell hot ones, the pigs will be onto us for sure. But if we just slip one in every now and then, it will do all right. I promised myself when I got out of reform school, I'm not going back. We have to be smarter than the pigs, and the only way to do that is not to get greedy. Brian nodded. What was Twister after today? Kev asked. Winnie laughed. He wanted us to ride up the Bassett's with him and his boys. Yeah, like fuck, Kev roared. Settle down, mate. I told him he wasn't on your Christmas card list. What'd he say to that? Fuck all. You came out of the workshop and that's when he pissed off. Good, Kev said with a smile. He also said what a good little shop we had. If he says something good about us, we should be careful. He's still a cunt, remember? And he's still a cunt. And that's the end of the chapter. Thank you, the first chapter. You've got to buy this book. It's just a great story. Not only me saying that, my mother says it too. Even though she's dead, I know she thinks it. Thank you very much for listening. And don't forget, read the PREZ. Ah.